2022. It is approximately 14:11 hours. I am Scott Fink, investigator with the Internal Affairs Division, Michigan Department of Corrections. Just make sure you speak up so that you're on the record. So on the record today is January 19th, 2022. It is approximately 14:11 hours. I am Scott Fink, investigator with the Internal Affairs Division, Michigan Department of Corrections, and I am interviewing Earl Booth, corrections officer at RGC. This is in regards to AM case 39544.
Can you just repeat that one more time?
Yes,
slower?
39544. He has signed his notice of interview and he does have union representation with him. Mr. Booth, can you please state your name and ID number?
Earl Booth, 1020772.
And your name for the record, sir?
Officer Paul Jones, Chief Steward for MCO at RGC. Employee ID number 1020763.
So, we're here on a complaint that was brought to our attention that on or about December 13th, Mr. Booth released a video on his personal Facebook page that was protected internal video from December 19th, 2019, where Mr. Booth himself was assaulted by prisoner Dontre Hall, 947928. Mr. Booth, first off, let's say, did you release this video on your Facebook page?
First of all, how is it protected?
What's that?
How is it that it's protected and that I can't post it there?
Well, it's internal records.
Right.
So
It was used in my court case,
Okay.
the district attorney.
well, that's what I'm going to get to. So did you post that video on your Facebook?
Yes, I did.
Okay. My next question is, how did you obtain a copy of that video?
I got it from the district attorney
District attorney?
of Jackson.
Okay. And you said that was for during your court case?
Yes, that was evidence of my assault case.
Okay.
May I ask why it's taking over a year to do something like this?
Like I said, this complaint came in December 13th
Of this year?
of this year. Yes. And the post on Facebook shows around December 13th of this year.
So the post and the complaint were the same day?
Yes. Did you re-release it this year?
Yeah.
Was it released before?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe they didn't notice it before.
Well,
but this
because
is-
they weren't monitored at the time. Yeah,
So-
may I make a point?
Yes, but I will give you at the end of this time to ask questions and add additional
Okay, then
information. I
I'll
just want
ask
to
it
let you
then.
know that.
I'll ask it
If you'd
then.
like to hold off, would you
No,
like to
no,
take
no.
notes? Take a piece of paper as well? then?
I'm
No?
so aware
Okay.
of all this, it's not even funny.
Okay. So I wanted to address something real quick. Can you verify this is your signature for the employee handbook?
Yes.
Dated 1/7/2021. Okay. So you are aware of employee work rules?
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Are you aware of the social media policy for the department?
In general, yeah, they made that February of last year.
It was effective August of 2020. So there was an update February last year, but it does state in it that posts on personal social media pages are not to negatively affect public perception of the department. It's also to not discredit the department or its employees, and to ensure that any information concerning official business is not released. It also states that posts that contain information obtained through the employee's professional duties and responsibilities may not be protected under the First Amendment and may form the basis of discipline if deemed detrimental. Do you need to review this policy?
No. Does that also mean screenshots?
Well, it's interpretive, but that is exactly what it states, that any post should not discredit the department or any of its employees. So, added onto this case was some other stuff that was reviewed on your Facebook. There was, did you release on your personal Facebook page a disciplinary report for Will Alexander?
First of all, do they suspect me of being on Facebook while I'm at work?
No, that is not
And
part of the complaint.
they're monitoring my off-work activity in my private time.
I'm not sure who you mean by they.
Well, whoever's reporting it, do they suspect me of going on Facebook while I'm at work and
No,
posting?
they do not.
Then this is off-work activity, right?
Correct. But you are governed by the social media policy, which states on or off duty on your personal social media account.
Okay?
So anything you post on your personal social media account is subject to this policy. So my question is, did you release this disciplinary report for Will Alexander?
I don't know if that's the date or not.
Okay. Did you release it on your Facebook page? I mean, the date doesn't have to be.
Yes.
Okay. When you released this, what was your reasoning for releasing this?
It was given to me by HR.
Okay. So, work rule number 1 states any action, language, or behavior that causes intimidation or humiliation or degrades or belittles another person, group, or employee. So, by releasing this, did you attempt to humiliate Mr. Alexander?
No, I attempted to make public that he's not being held responsible for disciplinary actions,
Okay.
which I am required to do. I'm, as an employee of the state, I am required that when one avenue doesn't work, to take another avenue. And if disciplinary action is not taken, then I'm required to report that. My lawyer tells me I can do that.
You've also posted several things in relation to Director Washington, Assistant Deputy Director Bush. Are any of these posts meant to belittle or humiliate them?
No. Is it the post itself or the content of the post that's being investigated?
Well, I mean, Mr. Booth, that's a generalized question, and all of this is governed under the social media policy. Yes,
I understand
whether
that.
you do it on duty or not is irrelevant. It's that you, number one, don't post anything that is degrading or belittling or is an attempt to humiliate or can be construed as humiliating to an employee or anyone or the department.
It can be construed as that. So that's pretty open, isn't it?
I agree, it is. But I would say when you're posting personal stuff of employees of the department that is embarrassing and humiliating to them to be made public, wouldn't you say that that's humiliating?
No, I say that's telling the general public what they're doing wrong, because the things that are on there are showing how they've been violating policy, how they're not following policy. So I'm allowed to do that.
Does the general public have anything to do with what happens with the employees of the Department of Corrections?
If they're reading it, if it's being interpreted that they're reading it and taking it to heart, then yes, it is.
So if you post a personal disciplinary record of an employee of this department, what bearing does the public have on that disciplinary record? How can they affect the outcome or change anything that's
Well,
or
it
isn't
doesn't.
happening?
It shows he's being promoted even after he's doing even after he's done disciplinary actions, and we ourselves are not even allowed to transfer within 2 years of a disciplinary action.
Okay, but that should be handled
That's
internally, not with the public who.
Every time I try to handle that internally, it doesn't get handled. I've notified your office several times of these sort of things, and it goes in one ear and out the other.
Have you ever posted a questionnaire on your Facebook that was given to you or completed by you?
Yeah,
Okay. Is this your questionnaire that you posted on your Facebook?
yeah, that's from, yeah.
These state on them that they are for official use only and that they are done confidentially. Confidential nature of records, which is a work rule that you are aware of, you are not to release this stuff to anyone. It is confidential nature.
My own records, I cannot post.
Correct. It is still a confidential in nature
that true?
record. Okay, this is an internal use only. These investigations are internal. I can't go talk to someone about you, and I sure can't post
Well,
anything
yeah,
you've
but I
done.
can talk about me.
I understand, but what you're doing is you're posting a confidential record on a public website. These are meant to stay internal. Doesn't matter if it's yours or not.
I don't agree with your interpretation, neither does my attorney.
Okay. I'm just advising you, these are some of the reasons you're being investigated again. Have you ever been disciplined, Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Do you think because someone's disciplined, they shouldn't be allowed to be promoted ever?
You're asking just for an opinion that I don't care to give you, Rick.
Okay. People make mistakes, right?
Well, we sure do.
Okay. Do you think
But-
every
but-
supervisor that's been promoted has never been in trouble before?
Nope. That's naive of me to think that.
So,
You're asking me in 20 years, do I think a supervisor's ever been disciplined? That's kind of naive, don't you think? Isn't
well,
that kind of vague?
no, it is vague, but what I'm saying is You're trying to take personal confidential records and put them on a public forum that can do nothing but embarrass an employee.
I don't agree with that. I think it's making public of the malfeasances and the indiscretion of supervisors in Michigan Department of Corrections. And if that embarrasses them, that's their fault.
Okay.
They shouldn't do those things.
What is your motivation to release a video of you being assaulted at a prison?
So that I can be assaulted. Did you read the whole article?
No, I'm asking you a question. What is your motivation of that video being released?
To make public the document the district attorney gave me for a court hearing.
Okay.
Okay.
So making it public on Facebook, what does that do for you?
I felt like putting it there.
Okay.
Doesn't have to do anything for me. It's something that was given to me by district attorney that I'm allowed to post.
All right. So work rule number 7, confidential nature of record says employees shall not share confidential information. This includes investigative documents or other information or reports with unauthorized persons. So releasing confidential documents on Facebook is a violation of work rules, whether it's yours or any other investigation.
I'm my attorney and you don't. I don't agree with that.
Okay, this disciplinary record is a confidential record.
Not
It's
when
not-
it's given to me by HR.
But you're not authorized to release that to the public or anyone who's not authorized to see it.
So if anybody gives me one of their disciplinary records or my disciplinary record, I can't post my disciplinary record on Facebook.
If I give you a disciplinary record, but I don't tell you...
I mean, answer my question, please. If I post my disciplinary on there, am I allowed to post my disciplinary on there?
Disciplinary for this department, whether it's yours or anyone else, is confidential.
So I'm not allowed to give it to anybody else, period.
You can do that, but you can't do it for someone else who has not authorized you to share it with anyone who's not authorized to see it.
Have you asked him if he's authorized to give it to me?
Did you ask him?
No, I'm asking you.
Yes, I've asked him. That's why I'm investigating it. And I've interviewed him and asked him his feelings on it.
Right, let me stop you. Who are we talking about? Him? Are we talking about
Will
Alexander?
Go ahead and
Okay.
let him read it.
Okay. This is, regardless of what it is, it's a confidential record. So
Not when they give it to me.
if he feels humiliated or degraded or belittled because you released it without his authorization, you're violating that work rule. You're violating the social media policy and you're violating...
So you've already made up your mind?
No,
that
I
it is a
have
violation?
not.
That's what you're telling me.
I said there's sufficient
Okay,
evidence
can
that you
appear
have
that way.
violated that rule
Okay.
by reading the policy and reading what the work rules state. Whether it's your intention or not to humiliate him, can you see how someone could be humiliated by that?
Yes. Can you notice, and let me pull out the employee handbook and ask you something, okay?
Yes. I have one right here if you'd like to use it.
Well, no, I'm gonna use mine.
Okay.
This is also something they released. Do supervisors get this too?
Yes, every person in the
Okay.
department has one.
One of the major objectives, and this is what you're referring to, of the department is to influence and persuade offenders to become law-abiding citizens. The on-duty and off-duty conduct of department employees must serve as an example of proper conduct. Everything in there shows improper conduct by supervisors. So is that going to be an issue?
So you're saying the information you posted is
Shows-
showing inappropriate conduct?
Yes.
Okay, I agree. That's what a write-up shows. But you releasing it to unauthorized individuals, it has nothing to do with what happened to Mr. Alexander. The department, I understand that the video you obtained was done for your legal purposes, but the department has to give you permission to release video
That is
inside
not true.
secure facilities.
That is not true. Because I'm also given screenshots of why that's not true.
Okay.
You're explaining to me that's not true.
Go ahead.
If it wasn't true, Mr. Booth, I wouldn't be investigating it.
Well, aren't we here to find out if it is true, or have you already decided that it is true?
It is true that you released the video.
No, are you saying that it's a detriment? Are you saying that it's a detriment to the MDOC, that the things in there are detriment to the MDOC?
No, what I'm saying is the claim that you released this video is accurate, which you agreed to.
The
Yeah, I
video
did
of him
release
getting
it.
assaulted.
Yes, that he released on his Facebook. You admitted to releasing it. That is what the complaint is, and that you have released other information on your Facebook page that is confidential, and unauthorized people have been allowed to view it.
Can I stop you just one? Is this a general? Because I'm getting all kinds of different things here.
Oh, yeah.
The Alexander thing. Him
This
getting
complaint
assaulted.
came in initially about the video being released.
So is the investigation
More information
encompassing
has been added to the
everything?
investigation for his social media conduct per the policy.
So everything on Facebook up until today.
Everything that has happened since I've gotten the complaint. Now, anything prior to that may have
When
been
did you get the complaint?
December 13th.
Okay.
So prior to that,
Okay.
may have been investigated previously. I'm not aware.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm just.
Yeah. So, to be perfectly clear, the complaint came in initially of the release of the video.
Who did the complaint?
I'm not at liberty to tell
The
you.
last
the
time
complaint.
last time Internal Affairs said it was somebody else, and they gave me a screenshot that was not the one that was done. And in that so-called Alexander thing right there, I also got the RFI they didn't include in the investigation, stop order investigation, and I also got a screenshot of Heidi Washington monitoring my Facebook page on my private time. The director. Is the director allowed to just look up my name and monitor my page every time
Mr.
she wants
Booth,
to?
I'm not here to investigate the director, though.
Well, it's gonna end up being that, sir.
Okay, well,
And that
we have policies and procedures for that. I'm here to investigate you at this time. All right, I'm here to be an unbiased investigator and gather all the information to determine if you violated a work rule or not. I have the video. Is it okay if your rep sees the video?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is your Facebook page, right?
I can't read it from here.
Yeah, I can't see with the glare. and
Yep,
I have my
yep,
glasses.
that's my
Okay.
Facebook.
So this is the video we're referencing. That's you being assaulted, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So this video was accompanied with with other pictures of cadets whose face were blurred out, and statements to, come work for the MDOC, showing this happening. You've worked for the department for almost 22 years, right, sir?
21.
Do you enjoy your job here?
I did up till 12 years ago, 10
Okay.
years ago.
So it looks to me like you're trying to discourage people from working for the department.
Is that okay?
I mean, no, it gives a bad perception
It's not
of
okay
the
to
department.
discourage people not to work for the Michigan Department of Corrections.
No, it's not okay to give a
Is that
bad
true?
public
I
perception.
cannot tell people maybe you shouldn't work here.
That's not what I said. What I said is,
All this is up for interpretation,
Right.
and it will go before a senior executive as a warden that will hold the hearing. I mean,
it is against policy to negatively affect the public perception of the Department of Corrections. That post negatively represents the perception of the Department of Corrections.
Did you read on the post where, can I read the whole post too? by
Well,
the way?
it's not the whole post. All it is just a
Well,
little bit of the
you're
video.
taking bits and pieces of the post and you're taking it out of context.
I'm not taking it out of context. We said exactly what it says. I asked you the reasoning of why you said it, and you
So-
said it was to deter people from working for the department.
It was to discourage them from working for the department.
Okay, same thing.
I can't discourage anybody from working for the MDOC.
You can. You absolutely
I just can't do
can
it in
do
a
what you
public
want,
manner.
but you can't put it. You can't violate the social media policy by negatively affecting the public perception of the department. And if you can't see that post, along with the other post that you did, it doesn't say come work for us. It's a great department. It says don't come work for us. This is how bad our pay raises are. This is what happens. This is what goes on.
Okay.
That affects the public's perception.
Well, it's true.
If you said that in private to someone, that's your prerogative. but you are not allowed to violate policy.
I'm not allowed to post the truth on social media.
We're not here to argue or interpret this. The policies are clear and you signed for them. They clearly state you cannot post anything on social media that negatively affects the perception of the department. To not discredit the department or its employees, okay, or that negatively affects the public perception of the department. That means you cannot post anything on social media that negatively affects the
Anything.
perception. Right. Anything that would reflect badly on this department cannot be posted on social media.
So you're saying if I just say, don't work for the MDOC, it's not a very nice place to work? That's disciplinary worthy?
I'm not
Because
saying,
I've done that before.
I understand. You've done a lot of things. But anything that can show the public's perception is negative, like posting a video of what could happen if you come work for us, or cadets with their faces blurred out and talking about how badly you're treated here. I understand.
I can't talk if I'm being treated badly.
There's a form for it. If we did not have the social media policy though, you are violating policy. Do you understand the policy on social media?
What form are you talking about?
Yeah.
Did you say form? There's a form for
Yeah.
it?
There's a form.
Oh, a forum.
A forum.
Okay,
to have those conversations.
I gotcha.
It's not on Facebook or social media. Because when you take it to social media and it negatively affects how the public looks at us, how it looks at its employees, like Will Alexander, that you posted his disciplinary record, then that violates our social media policy.
Has anybody made comments on those posters that are negative?
I haven't looked at the comments.
And how do you know that then it's being perceived negatively, or has anybody's even seen it?
I don't, but it says that it can negatively affect the public's perception. You're not posting anything positive, so how can it not be negative?
It could be neutral, but anyway,
Okay.
I see what you're saying.
I understand you're unhappy. You've stated you've been unhappy for a while here.
Well, that was ever since I did a discriminatory harassment on a lieutenant around here back in 2012. Up till then, my first 12 years in the Department of Corrections, I had no disciplinaries. Now I've been the subject of 10. As soon as I do show that I've been proved that I was being discriminatory harassed, now everything's being monitored. Up before that, nothing.
Okay. Well, up until the last year and a half, we didn't have the social media policy. So they have the right to monitor people's social media because we have a policy against.
They have the right to monitor it.
They have the right to monitor anyone's social media because we have a policy governing it. Just like they can monitor our state cell phones, they can monitor our behavior on and off duty for conduct unbecoming.
Since we're talking about policy here, do they have to have this is me asking you a question, do they have to have a reasonable suspicion that I am violating policy before they monitor, or can they just monitor it because they feel like monitoring it?
No, they don't. But again, Facebook is a public forum and you just never know who's looking at it. So anyone that sees it obviously knows where you work or who you work for. Who knows who they know in the department, or it could have been reported without it even being monitored. So it's not just the department that has the right to monitor everyone's social media. It's other people that see it on Facebook that can report it, and then it comes to us for an investigation because it's a violation of a social media policy.
That's very, very, very all-inclusive.
Okay.
I don't know much about social media, but I know a little bit. Answer me this. Is your Facebook where everybody can see it, or is it
It's
private?
public,
Public.
It is public.
yeah.
So
Not all of it.
have you ever thought of making it private maybe? So now that doesn't allow you to continue to...
No, because still that would mean, because I was told I can't even do that because not everybody in my privacy works for the Michigan Department of Corrections. So now, are you inferring it would be okay to make it private?
No, what I'm referring to is it gives you more privacy. If you make it private, it doesn't mean you can continue the same post because people can still see them that are part of the
So
public.
would that be a violation of policy,
If you continue to post the same things, yes.
even if it's private?
Yes. Because not all those individuals have the right to see this information. And
That is where the MDOC and my lawyers see a big difference.
okay, well,
I'm
this
glad you're taping this, 'cause
social
my lawyers
media
don't understand.
policy is not really up for interpretation. It's a policy like everything else.
So there's no gray area on it.
Well, no, if you post something that's negative about the department, it violates this policy, clearly. That it's negative affects the public perception of the department. I don't see how you don't agree with that.
Oh, I'm not doing it to show people that I'm happy if you're getting it.
Well,
bad.
that's obvious. You're not saying anything positive about the department on your page.
You drawing that conclusion?
From what I've seen about...
You saying I've never posted anything
No,
positive
I did not
about
say
what-
never. I said from what I've seen on your page, and I've been investigating since December 13th, you've posted nothing negative about employees. You've posted about Jeremy Bush, Director Washington, Investigator Alexander, Investigator Dahlke. You've posted about all of them.
Yeah, I've posted about how they violate policy.
Okay? But you violate policy, sir.
Yeah, and here I am.
Exactly. So how can you
They're
talk
supposed
about
to be
them
held, they're
violating?
supposed to be held to a higher standard.
I agree. I agree. Everyone in this
Did you know
department.
did you know that's been changed in policy?
What?
That they no longer have to be held to a higher standard? That happened after I started posting it.
Who's they?
Heidi
You-
posted it. She changed it now, so now it doesn't. Now they're not held to a higher standard.
Who's they?
Supervisors and people in that position.
I disagree. Everyone in this department is held to the employee work rules,
That's
and
not
they
what
are
policy
all subject to investigation.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
But now they're not automatically held to a higher standard.
Well, I can't speak to that.
It's in policy, or it's in
Okay.
policy.
Well, I think we're all held to standards that we conduct ourselves appropriately.
Just a personal opinion. Do you believe supervisors are held to a higher standard in general? People like Heidi and a few of the ones
It
that
doesn't
I've been
matter.
reporting?
It
No,
doesn't matter our opinions.
I'm asking him his opinion,
Okay. But opinions aren't relevant really to this investigation.
so I can't ask him his opinion.
Not right now. You can ask him in a different time. We're conducting an official investigation. Now, whether the supervisors are held to a standard or not has nothing to do with you being investigated for violating policy. Like any other person would be subject to investigation if they violate policy. Isn't there a way you can get your point across without violating policies?
Isn't there a way I can do it without violating policy?
Yes, because
It sounds to me like if I tell it to anybody, I'm violating policy, whether it's on post or off post. I'm not allowed to talk negatively about the
I
department.
did not say that. I said
You're inferring that.
I said the social media policy
No, you
states.
said, no, you said, isn't there a way that I can do it?
Yes.
So if I do it off post and I go around to people and I go stand up in front of everybody and say, they're doing this, they're doing that, the warden doesn't follow policy, he's violated it here, he's violated it there, the director's violated policy here, he's violated it there.
Okay.
Is that a violation of policy?
No.
So I can.
You are.
post
That does
negative.
not violate the social media policy.
Okay,
I am discussing your social media violations.
okay.
So, yes, I'm sure there's lots of employees in this department that may not be happy, especially with what's going on.
I
with COVID.
love working here, I just
Okay,
don't like.
but I am like every job, people vent about the frustrations they have at their work. If you vent to coworkers, all right, that's fine. But when you go on, when you violate a social media policy by posting things that affect the reputation of this department, then you have violated policy by doing it.
So are you saying what is what I'm putting on there true?
I would assume it's true.
So I'm not allowed to violate, I'm not allowed to post if it's true.
I did not say that. I said you can't not post anything that negatively affects the reputation of this department or the reputation of its employees. Whether it's true or not. If it's true and it humiliates another person and you didn't have authorization to share it with unauthorized people, you're violating on the work rule. You're
know,
violating
that's
social media
That's
policy.
the second time that's been investigated and I got no result from it.
Okay. Well,
So why isn't that why is it pertinent now instead of like it was when I did it the first time?
Mr. Booth, I can't speak to previous
No,
investigations.
it's still going on.
Well, I can't speak to investigations I didn't do.
So if I'm not found to have been guilty the first time, I can be found guilty the second time. Okay.
You have one pending?
Yeah, on that, what is it, the Alexander thing. So it's being investigated again, a second time
No.
right now while it's being investigated the first time.
Okay.
So they're investigating it twice during the same time period. Well, that's
Mr.
really,
Booth.
that's really piling on.
Mr. Booth, do you have any information you'd like to add further at this time? Or any questions you have?
So you say what I'm doing is a First Amendment violation. Is it a First Amendment? Am I not allowed to do that according to First
Any
Amendment?
post that contains information.
I don't care what they say there, sir. I'm telling you, they can put anything in that policy they
I'm
want.
not a
They-
constitutional lawyer. I am an investigator for the department, and I investigate policy violations. The policy states that any information you obtain through your professional duties and responsibilities, okay, may not be protected under the First Amendment and may be a basis for discipline.
I did not receive the Alexander disciplinary through work channels.
Okay? Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, I will say it, I think Internal Affairs and the MDOC is gunning for me because I report to supervisors when they don't follow policy, when they continue to report when they don't follow policy.
I would, as you should, Mr. Booth.
I'll tell you about another post I did right now if you want to do it. The other day I put on there, and I'll tell you about it. How supervisors are allowed to promote with disciplinaries on the record, but an employee can't even get a transfer with a disciplinary record in 2 years.
Okay.
So why
which-
are supervisors allowed to be so special that they can be promoted during disciplinaries, but we can't even get a transfer if we had one in the last 2 years?
I can't speak on that.
Well, I'm putting it so that it's on
Okay,
here.
but I can't speak to that. But if a supervisor violates a policy within the department, you have an obligation for work rule number 38, reporting requirements, to report that. So if you see it, you see violation by a supervisor or any coworker, you have an obligation to report it, so you're doing the right thing.
A lot of these things that you're talking about right now, I've already reported to Internal Affairs, and it did not get investigated. Matter of fact, as it was required to by policy, some of the things it says, these investigations, at the time policy was in effect, said these allegations shall be investigated, and your division doesn't do it until something like this shows up.
Not everything is investigated by IA. Most of it is
No, I
distributed
didn't
to
say
the
I said
location.
it's supposed to be investigated.
Okay, I agree. I can't speak to that though, because I haven't seen everything.
Well,
you've
you will
reported.
be.
Okay. Well, this is the only case I've ever had with you. This is the only time I've ever met you. I haven't looked at your previous cases, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can by not looking at those cases before I speak to you. So I would say that you are in the right to report anyone who violates a policy.
Well, thank
You
you
have
for-
a
thank you for
reporting
that.
requirement to do so. Continue to do that. I can't speak to whether they're investigated or not. They are supposed to be investigated if it's a policy violation. You cannot violate the policy by your social media activity. So I would suggest that you have the freedom of speech to put what you want on your own social media, as long as it doesn't violate the department's policy where you work for on social media.
That's where you're wrong.
Okay. Well,
That'll be decided in court.
I've just read the social media policy.
I understand that. They can write anything to policy they want and say that's what it is.
But you understand by
Policies
violating
have been sent
policy,
over
you're
before.
subject to discharge, regardless of what happens
No,
in court.
I know that's their motive right here.
Do you know you're subject to discharge if you
you-
violate policy? So why
Up
would
to
you?
and including
Yeah,
Right.
discharge, depending on the
you're
work
already
rule
calling
and
it a
the.
discharge.
No, I said you're subject to discharge. You're turning my words around.
No, you're not completing the statement. You
It
said it's.
depends on the disciplinary process and
Exactly.
where he's at on the grid as far as.
You
Exactly.
made me feel, and I want my attorney to hear this, that this is subject to discharge and nothing else.
These are work rules these are asterisk work rules that are
So-
subject to up and to
You
discharge.
didn't say that.
Well, I said you're subject to a discharge. Didn't say it's required.
Well, that makes me think you've already decided it's a discharge.
Okay. Well, you have the right to think what you want. You don't have the right to post what you want on social media. So
Is it okay for me to send this to my attorney?
you can do what you want.
I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. But you, per policy, work rule 54, if you want to pull out your book. Okay. You may not transmit or record, recordings which are authorized, okay, including recording devices used during investigatory interviews. Such recordings shall be disclosed to all members. You are prohibited from making any copies, removing copies of communications without authorizations that are routinely recorded and monitored. So, I am not giving you permission to share this recording
with my attorney.
with anyone but your rep and yourself.
So I'm not allowed to give it to my attorney.
Correct. Okay.